Yes, yeah. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the official opening of Pleasure Driven Prosperity. Now, the whole reason why I wanted to create this masterclass, which has then turned into a week-long event, which has then kind of been extended with like the pre-Voxer space, is because I've created some really cool results in my life over the last few months, and it's been a talking point for some people. And I thought, what better way to share, and give generously before the end of the year than to run a masterclass, hence full week-long experience, and offer some insights as to how I have created those results and done it in a way that is really pleasurable. So I know there's a couple of people who are jumping on here and who are already on here who are kind of new in my world. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background to me and my world soon. But just for now, just know that in creating my business, I decided that it would only be done if it wasn't going to deplete me and take away from me and feel like sacrifice and exhaustion and lead to burnout. And what I would love to do, like the take home, there's going to be a few, but obviously one of the main take homes for this experience that I want you to take with you is knowing that like it is actually possible to create a beautiful, successful business, or whatever it is that you want to achieve, whatever prosperity means to you, to do it in a way that is so aligned to you. And it might look completely unconventional. It might look completely different to like the traditional style of prosperity or the traditional way of actually achieving what it is that you want to achieve. It's totally possible. And so that's what I want to share with you, that it is absolutely possible to create the type of prosperity that you desire. And I want to share bits and pieces of that with you along the way, because when I look back over the last sort of few years, I think a lot of the pieces that have, I don't want to say like kept me back, but almost like made it less easy, is the doubt of like, yeah, but is that possible? Like, how many people do you know? Like maybe I have to kind of really kind of hustle and grind for the first couple of years. Maybe I have to say yes to things that my heart just is saying no to. Maybe I should be staying up until whatever time at night, even if I'm tired, to get my work done, you know? And so, if I can alleviate any of that doubt from within you just by running this experience, I will have achieved what I want to achieve. So part of that was sharing with you the evidence that this can happen. Like this, it's totally possible. Because for me, when I was, deciding the way I was going to build my business, there wasn't a huge amount of evidence online for me to see that that was true. And obviously I've like gotten to know more people and things like that. But when I started out, it really felt like I was out of my mind, and, it was just a bit of a dream, and, no one can actually be a primary caregiver to their kids, really honor that time with their kids, be at home with your kids, and also build a business that feels fucking awesome and you have a great time, and, it feels pleasurable in doing that. Like, right? It's meant to be hard work. It is meant to include sacrifice. Like there is a certain, like all of these kind of beliefs that we have been socialized into and that we have been conditioned into. Like, I'm not immune from those either. And so part of my work has been to utilize pleasure as the tool to create what I desire. And in doing that, I've worked out it's a really great tool and a really effective one. And the byproduct of that is more pleasure. So it's like a win-win, right? So some of the pieces I want to share with you now in terms of like announcements. First of all, I am going to be sharing with you about how you can work with me. But ideally, you've got all of these, what I'm going to share with you, you're going to take them away with you. If you want to take everything that you learn from this experience and DIY it yourself, like perfect. That is absolutely perfect. And also, if you're like, oh, I would really like some support and guidance, I would really like to work out how I can apply this to my life and different pieces of my life ongoing, I will share with you some ways that you can work with me. There's the typical one-on-one 6 months that for those of you who've been around a while, it's still available, that offer, but I've also created a different one as well. They're both two really great offers. So I'm going to share that with you. I don't know, maybe the second day, I think. So that'll be Tuesday next week. If you have any questions in the meantime, do let me know, because I've got two spots available for the 6 months one-on-one weekly and 3 spots available for this other offer that I'll share with you. Okay. First of all, you can win. Pleasure makes you really generous. I love giving stuff away when I run free things. I love generously sharing. I know it always comes back to me, and it's like so fun. And so I'm going to be giving some things away. The first thing I have given away was for Julia, who I've shared that with her already, but for the rest of you, you weren't aware of that yet. And that was because she applied before the sales page went up. She was one of the people, I think it was about 20 of you that actually applied before the sign up page went up, not a sales page, because this is free. Yeah, and so congratulations, Julia. But if you are going to be sharing things like screenshots of, you know, us having this masterclass, whether it's today or during the week, if you're going to be sharing on socials, like some aha moments and things that you've taken away, you're going to be getting some extra points. And the winner out of that draw will be getting a 60-minute one-on-one with me, so that we can meet after we've had this experience together and really start to apply those things. I will share some recommendations with you and really get you set up to move on from here. So yeah, share away. It's my love language. What else? Yeah, look, I think that's probably about it for now. I don't know. I'm sure things will come to me. I usually run these things in a very intuitively led way. There's a few things that I've jotted down that I want to sort of cover today. But otherwise, I just really think that whatever needs to be shared today will be. I'll keep an eye on the time, and I'm going to check on the view, because I think it would be better to be recorded from speaker view. We'll go from there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to just drop down into tuning in with ourselves and what it is that we desire, and what our prosperity driven by pleasure, what that blueprint is for us. So if you are comfortable, if you're not driving, any of those kind of things, I'm going to get you to close your eyes now and follow along with me. I'm going to get you to take a really deep breath in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. Let's do that twice more. In through the nose. Relax the face, out through the mouth. Sigh it out. One more deep breath. Relax the shoulders. And allowing that breath to be a little bit deeper than normal. Expanding your belly on the inhale. And sinking into your seat or whatever it is that is supporting you right now. Taking anything out of your hands, uncrossing your legs if you need to, and just tuning in with your body right now. Part of, well, one of the main things of tuning in with pleasure is being able to have that connection with our body. So I'm going to get you to just notice the support you're getting right now from whatever it is that you're sitting on, reminding yourself you're always supported, and then tuning in with anything else that you can feel. Maybe it's clothes on your skin. Maybe it's sunshine on your face. Maybe it's the warmth of your body. Noticing the movements of your body, feeling your belly expand on the inhale. Relax on the exhale. And now tuning into any of the sensations of the body that you can feel. Maybe your hands are warm. Your fingers might be tingly. Maybe your chest feels open. Maybe you can tune into your heartbeat, noticing if it's slowing. And just honoring yourself right now for being here and for signing up to this experience and for honoring what it is that you desire. I want you to imagine that sense of celebration, that feeling of celebration in every single cell in your body, and that feeling of really honoring yourself. And now we're going to tune into your prosperity blueprint, which is just tuning in with that image or that little movie or some kind of a feeling where you know you have reached that highest version of prosperity for yourself. And you know that you've done it with pleasure. You know that you are there in a sense of pleasure. Tune into that version of you where you have reached the peak of your prosperity, where you are feeling perhaps light, maybe happy, maybe relaxed, maybe it feels like a big exhale. Not considering the how is it possible or how did I get here, just noticing that you're there now. And tuning in with some of the elements that you can sense in that experience. Where are you? Are you in the same house or a different house? Maybe noticing what you're up to, what you're doing, what you're wearing, who you're with, and then noticing how you're feeling. So tuning into that feeling now. Maybe it brings a smile to your face. Maybe it just feels again like a big exhale, like a sense of relief. Maybe it feels like lightness, love, joy, excitement, ecstasy, pleasure. And really now turning the volume up on those feelings from your prosperity blueprint. So if it is a sense of pleasure or ecstasy, turn the volume up and really feel that vibrating in your body. If it's a sense of lightness or relief, maybe it's just a sense of ease and peace. Whatever it is, I want you to really see if you can crank up the volume and imagine that feeling spreading to every single cell in your body. And again, maybe it brings a smile to your face. Maybe it starts to make your heart beat faster. Maybe you're starting to feel more excited. And now I'm going to get you to anchor that feeling in. You might like to do that by rubbing your hand on your heart or tapping on your heart, tapping on your chest. Maybe you want to do that by clicking your fingers. Just some small movement here to really anchor that feeling in. So we've really heightened those senses. We've really heightened that experience. Really, again, feel it in your body and set off that anchor. And when you feel like you have reached the peak of that feeling and you've set off that anchor and you've anchored it in, reminding yourself of what the anchor is, reminding your body of what that feeling feels like. And then just taking a couple more deep breaths here, knowing that that feeling is available to you anytime. And when you're ready, starting to open your eyes, taking your time. And coming back to us. Beautiful. So I'm going to get you to jump into the chat box now and share 3 words with me. 3 words with what it is that you have experienced just now. What is part of your prosperity blueprint? Perhaps what did it feel like? What did you see? What kind of thing, what is it that you are really embodying? And again, if you've got any questions, you're welcome to ask them. You can pop it in the chat or you can raise your hand. Renee says, peace, calm, ease, and abundance. Yeah, so great. Mary says, peace, relaxed, in flow. Awesome. Sasha, heart open, amazing. Yeah. And so just know that that feeling is there available to you anytime. Like that you created that, you cultivated that feeling within your body. So know that that is there anytime. And I always love when anyone has a state that they would like to create as one of their goals. Because I'm like, sweet, we can do that now. And we don't have to wait for that. All right. So thank you for sharing that with me. And I hope you are I hope it brought you a lot of peace. It sounds like it did for most of you. And I think that's just one of the things as to why I want to help women, especially mothers, create prosperity in a pleasure-led way. Because when I consider women and mothers who are able to access their own version of prosperity and to be able to access pleasure, like the view of the world that I envision is absolutely incredible. It would be such an enriched society, would create such radical transformation in our world. And I love that so many of my clients and so many of you that are joining me on this experience also work with other women and other mothers. So it's like this beautiful flow-on effect. Yeah, and I think that's part of why we're here today. Like, and part of why I have been able to collect all you incredible women here. Like, you have decided to join Pleasure-Driven Prosperity for what reason? My guess is because there's probably a part of you that knows that, you know, this is possible. Maybe you don't know it's possible. Maybe you believe it could be, but it's something that you desire. Like, consider, what have you had to believe to be true about yourself in order to sign up for this, in order to be here today or watch the replay? So that's something I want you to ask yourself, like right now. You can pop it in the chat box. Like, what have you had to believe to be true about yourself to join us here? Now, that might be that you are worthy of pleasure and prosperity. It might mean that it might be that you think that it's possible, right? What have you had to believe in order to get here? Maybe it's that there is another way. And Sasha says that it's allowed to be free and easy. Yes, like you are allowed to design your life however you choose, right? And I think this is what I so much love about the clients who I work with. You guys are all fucking badasses, like so much. What audacity you have to decide that within this society that shames women, especially mothers, for prioritizing their pleasure and also, creating, let alone talking about money. And yet here we are, like marrying those two things together, and finding the tools to create that. It's incredible. And I think I was reading an article recently, and it was talking about, how interesting it was that, our society doesn't like to talk about money. It's kind of like one of those, off, you shouldn't really talk about, what is it? Money, religion, and sex or something? Or did I just make that one up? Anyway, it's like, isn't it interesting that it wasn't until, how long it took for the pay gap to come out? Like the fact that that was revealed, how long it took for that to be revealed, because, no one's really talking about money, right? And women shouldn't be talking about money. And especially as mothers, we shouldn't be interested in making money. We should just be focused on having this humble, wholesome life with our children and asking for nothing more, right? And so that's what I love about having you here, is because, you probably really love that. I absolutely love the wholesomeness of motherhood sometimes. And absolutely, I do love the times when I have just me and my kids. And also, there's things calling me forward to other pieces outside of motherhood too. And part of that is creating my version of prosperity. And part of that is like really doing it with pleasure. And so for me, prosperity is all about creating what I desire and doing it in a way that feels good, having that level of abundance. And as you guys talked about, like this peace and this ease, like not worrying about stuff that doesn't matter to me. And the things that matter to me most are resourced, that I can give my kids the experiences I want to give them. And what it comes down to and what it reminds me of is what I believe to be true and what I've shared with many of you in here before is that we are the perfect vehicle for our desires. If you have a desire, that means you are the perfect vehicle for that. And this is something that I'm going to keep reminding you of, because there'll be times when you're like, oh, like, do I know what I'm talking about? This sense of imposter syndrome, like this self-doubt. And every time that comes up for you, I want you to remind yourself, you are the perfect vehicle to bring this desire forth, to actualize this desire. If you weren't, you wouldn't have received it. You are the perfect vehicle for your desires. Okay, so I'm going to guess that you're here because you are ready to cultivate more prosperity and to do it with pleasure. I'm going to guess that you're here because you're a bit of a badass. Like I said, you have this level of audacity of like, hell yeah, like I'm probably not supposed to want to do X, Y, and Z, but actually I'm going to honor that part of me. And how incredible to do so, and how incredible if you do have kids to model that for them, What else do I want to share with you today? All right, I think one of the pieces here is that I think the really thing I want to really talk to here is that pleasure and prosperity in the hands of women, in the hands of mothers, it goes against the grain of patriarchal culture, right? And what it can create is incredible. Like, think about the women and the mothers who are raising this next generation. Imagine doing it in a way where you are completely resourced, where you aren't stressed about money, where you can experience pleasure, where you can really see life through a lens of ecstasy. Like, imagine the kind of experience that you'll have with your kids. Imagine the experience your children will have. So that's part of my why. And I bet it's probably a lot of your whys as well. All right. So we've talked about considering what is possible for you when you are, reaching that point of prosperity and doing it with pleasure. And I want you to consider what might be possible for your family. What's the flow-on effect that goes out into the world? And let me know if there's anything else that is really speaking to you right now, or anything else that feels really true for you to share. You're most welcome to pop it in the chat box. And I'm going to share a little bit about me. And I've already sort of shared a bit about why I am doing this work and why I'm so interested in creating pleasure-driven prosperity and why I want to share it with others. And what I haven't really shared with you is that before I started my business, I had experienced, okay, I'm going to go rewind a little bit further. I used to be an exercise physiologist. So I am an exercise physiologist, former exercise physiologist, a health and wellness coach. So I used to work in mining and used to get towns like, Mudgee, getting together for this like whole health and wellness kick, basically. I was a yoga and meditation teacher. So I thought I even remember before we fell pregnant, and I was like, I want to make sure I've got all my shit together before I fall pregnant and have our kids. And I felt like when I did fall pregnant, I was like, yeah, it's the right time. I've got nothing else to really come up or heal or any of that. Like, I kind of know what I'm doing, right? Which is hilarious because it's really, really humid. I'm like so hot. Yeah. And so I had my son, and within a few months, by the time he was 4 months old, he had the 4-month sleep regression that I didn't believe to be true until it arrived. And I spent weeks waking up a good probably 6 to 10 times a night. And after a few weeks, he started sleeping again, but my body forgot how. And I share all of this in my book as well. So if you've read it and you've been around here for a while, you know this story. And so what that led to was an experience of postnatal depression and anxiety and insomnia. Right. So imagine I've gone from being like this yoga teacher, this exercise physiologist, like I know all the neurology about this. I understand like the physiology, the biology of it. Like I knew it was coming and like all the rest of it. And yet here I was, And so for me, I realized that all of the things that I used to lean on to help me weren't all that accessible or available to me as a mama with a little bub. Yeah. And so I started to get really curious about, number one, how the hell can I be okay? So that included a lot of therapy, group therapy, reading books, listening to podcasts, like talking with other people. But ultimately I was like, I went on this like exploration of like, how can I be okay? And that was very humbling in itself. And so, yeah, I discovered that there is so much that can be done with our life in where we are already at now, without needing to change our circumstances, without needing to have more of anything else. It's like we can actually change our experience of life without actually changing our life. Does that make sense? And then in turn, that changes our life, right? So after I had recovered from that experience, it took me a good sort of 6 to 8 months. By then we moved interstate. So we didn't have any family or friends interstate. And within 2 months of being there, I fell pregnant with my second son. So we had 3 little babes in 4.5 years. And so, yeah, fell pregnant with our second. And I thought, oh, well, shit, if I had that experience after my first, when we were living, home with our family and friends, and I had no kids, like imagine what I'm going to go through now. And so I really then cranked up the intensity of like, okay, what else do I need to do to, instead of just be okay, like, can I actually be good? Can I feel good after having this babe and through this pregnancy? And anyway, I did feel good. Like after my second, there was so much that I had learned and put into practice, and so much more of a fostered relationship that I created with my body, that I knew what to do and I could trust myself, and I had the confidence to implement a lot of those things. And yeah, after I had him, probably a few months after that, I got this desire to start my own business. And so that started out with running women's circles and doing like some coaching in the sense of like yoga, like this kind of hybrid model of like yoga and meditation and coaching. And anyway, it was a good couple of years of experimenting and fun and playing around with online programs and things like that. Anyway, 2 years after we had our second, we've got our third babe. We've moved back home by this point in time and had our third baby girl, who is now almost 3, which is crazy. And with her pregnancy, it was like I've gone from can I be okay to can I feel good? And then this time around, I was like, well, can I feel fucking amazing? Can I reject society's idea that the more kids you have, the more you lose? Can I reject this conditioning that we lose ourselves, like we become more lost the more kids we have, or the longer that we're in motherhood? Like, how can I actually feel fucking amazing? Like more so than before I even had kids. And so, yeah, this is where I continue this journey. And what I learned along the way is that pleasure is a tool for personal growth, like self-growth and liberation, and moving through like all of this kind of evolution of knowing yourself. I realized that pleasure is a portal back home to yourself. Pleasure makes you feel more like yourself. And so, yeah, after I had my baby girl, then I got the desire to write my book. And again, it was like, can I do this? And so I made that a little bit like field work. Like, can I do this huge project with 3 small little children and achieve that in a way that feels really pleasurable, in a way that it doesn't take from me, it doesn't deplete me, it doesn't, take away from my relationship. And it was such a really beautiful thing. Plus, I also thought like I have to do it with pleasure. Otherwise, that would be completely out of integrity. And so what that looked like was a good sort of 5 or 6 months of, yeah, like allowing myself to snuggle up on the lounge and to have a glass of wine or a cacao and like spend an hour a night. I aim for an hour a night, 6 days a week, to write 600 words. And that was it. And within 3 months, I'd written, I think, 12 of the 14 chapters. And it took me a good couple of months to finish it after that. But again, it was this beautiful process of like creating something that I desire, like, achieving something I want to achieve and doing it in a way that felt pleasurable. So it was kind of like more evidence for me. And yeah, and so that was October of last year. And so since I've had that book published by the Kime Press, it's been really a focus now on really honoring my service to my clients, doing one-on-one mentoring. And that has looked like that has also been an evolution. We started out doing like the mama cup filler in terms of like filling our cup as mums, to now, how can we find the gold in motherhood as well as blend business and motherhood? So that's where I'm at right now. Over the last sort of few months, I've been having really incredible months, like financially as well as fulfilling for me. And yeah, so sharing the pieces along the way. So that's a bit about me. If you have any questions, do let me know. But I think just from here, that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover today. Let you get to know me a little bit, get to know where we are from here. Let me know if you have any questions just now. Let me know if anything is coming up for you. What it looks like over this next week is, if you are not already in the Voxer group, I highly recommend you get in there. We're having conversations in there every day. And those conversations, some of which will not be included in this kind of in the live trainings and things like that. Over the next Monday, Tuesday, the first 2 days of training, we'll have about an hour together, and the third day will be an hour for coaching. So if you can't be there live and you want to submit your questions, you're welcome to, but it would be awesome if you can come live and we can do some hot seat coaching. And that is designed so that what you're learning along the way, you can be like, oh, okay, I want to implement this idea, this concept, this tool into my life. How can I do that? Maybe it is around your business. Maybe it's around your relationship. Maybe it's about your experience of motherhood. Like, bring it all, and know that whatever you share is going to be really valuable for everyone else. Chances are everyone else is like, that's a great question. Like, that really aligns with me too. Renee, how do you stay patient with the things you're doing and not rush yourself? Oh, okay. This is such a great question. How do you stay patient with the things I'm doing? And okay, can you clarify for me in the chat box, Renee? Do you mean, how can I stay patient with, like, for example, what I want to achieve and I can't do it fast enough because of the other things on my plate? You're nodding, you're saying, yeah, okay, yeah. All right. We're definitely going to be talking about that. That's for sure. Part of it that I spoke to the other day is this feeling of enoughness, knowing that, like, actually the time that I have is enough, and what I have done in that time is enough. Like, being able to hold that whilst also being able to hold the desire for more. Yeah. And so we will be talking about that. We're going to be exploring that, I would say, on day one. Day one is going to be like a few of these little pieces that have been really helpful for me, such as like navigating how to actually create the prosperity that we desire by taking the actions that we want to take to lead us to that kind of prosperity, right? So it will be a little bit of like practical things, but it also will be tapping into some of those things that would be more like an undercurrent, a subconscious undercurrent that we're probably not aware of, or if we are, we like don't want to know about it. So where like our brain is doing the thing where it goes, oh, look at all these problems over here. These are the problems. And it's not really actually the problems, right? And you're going to come to know that basically there's only two things that hold us back from creating the prosperity we desire with pleasure. I'm trying to decide if I want to share them with you now or not. Stay tuned for Monday. No, I'll share them with you now. The first one is avoiding the feeling. And the second one is believing the thought. So I'm just going to share a little bit on that now. So avoiding the feeling. This happens all the time. This still happens to me. It is an absolute practice. This is why I love having a mentor and someone who can move me through this, because it's stuff that I can't see for myself. I just believe it to be true, right? So there might be something that you want to achieve. And let's talk about my book for an example. I wanted to write this book, right? That was my desire. I wanted to share it with the world. When I was looking into pleasure in motherhood, I found like such an underwhelming amount of conversation around it. So that's why I was like, I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be about pleasure in motherhood, right? And so yeah, write the book. Great. That sounds like a really ambitious goal. That sounds really great. Surely there's nothing that's going to kind of come up for me. Well, of course there always is. And part of it was this feeling, and this is why the last kind of couple of chapters took me so long to write compared to the first lot. I did the first 12 in like 12 weeks, and the last two was more like 3 months. Again, like another 12 weeks, right, too. And I was avoiding this feeling of vulnerability, because it's like, oh my gosh, anyone can buy this book. Anyone can read it. I mean, obviously, who reads English? Okay, so not everyone in the whole world, right? But, it's so accessible. It is a lot of my own personal stories, my own personal beliefs and concepts and tools and ideas. Yeah, like that's massive, right? And so I was taking so long to write these last two chapters because I was avoiding that feeling of vulnerability. Like, even just thinking about it now, like if you think about it yourself, like the sense of vulnerability, you can feel it in your body. And so what can hold us back from finishing the book, or, you know, applying for the job, or building the course, or like fill in the blank, is feeling this feeling. Now, it can be vulnerability, it can be embarrassment, it can be shame, it can be humiliation, it can be, you know, fill in the blank. Yeah. And what our beautiful brain does for us is it goes, oh, that's uncomfortable, that's new, that's unfamiliar territory. We know that you're safe right now. Let's not mix things up, right? Why add on anything else? Why do anything else? No, it's safe here. Don't now put a book out in the world. Don't now apply for this job. Like, don't now create a course or whatever. Like, don't do that. And so our body is offering us these feelings that feel uncomfortable. And then our brain starts giving us, as I was talking to you before, like all of these things that feel like problems. Like, I'm going to have you think like, well, you can't write this book because you have not been considered a writer by anyone else ever before. Like, it's like, okay. And our brain does this, right? And when you start to get really conscious of the thoughts that you're thinking, you'll start to pull some out and you'll realize that, holy shit, like, I don't actually believe that. And question, like, where did that even come from? Some of the thoughts that I've looked at when I opened up what I call my postpartum Pandora's box, you know, like the Pandora's box of like motherhood beliefs. This is the kind of mother you should be, yada yada. When I opened up that box, like listening to and hearing my own thoughts and being like, where on earth did they come from? Some of which came from like random strangers, like sideways comments, like maybe they're having a bad day, or like maybe that's what they believe. And until we stop to question that for ourselves, those thoughts are going to run those programs in our mind, right? So number one is avoiding the feeling. Like, that is going to stop us from achieving the prosperity we want. Also, it stops us from experiencing pleasure. Since I have gotten really good at feeling the feeling of discomfort, like fill in the blank of all those things I said, you know, vulnerability, embarrassment, yada, yada. Since I've done that, whilst, you know, simultaneously, I've been learning to experience and open to pleasure. But in doing that, I feel like it's created such an opening for me to feel like the other feelings as well, like on the other end of the spectrum. There's probably not a week that goes by that I don't end up with like tears down my face at the absolute gratitude I have for like being with my kids and just watching them and being in absolute awe of like these little people doing these little projects, or like running up the beach towards me, and like, oh, you know, like I'm so able to tune in with the pleasure of life as well because I've done this. So not only are you able to create this prosperity by moving through these feelings, and it's not about bypassing, it's not about like pushing them down, it's not about ignoring them. Like, there's a process that we can go through to actually like let them be and love on them and move through that to create the prosperity we want, and also to supercharge our pleasure experience. Now, the second thing, does anyone want to have a guess? I'm going to have a drink. Let me know if you want to have a guess. Just give me a nod. Actually, put it in the comments. I want to read the comment box. Let me know what you think the other thing might be that stops us from experiencing and achieving prosperity with pleasure. Okay, I'm going to just check the other comments and see if I've missed any. I see Renee typing. Go for it. No? All right. I'm going to share with you the other thing that stops us from achieving prosperity and doing it with pleasure. look, there's probably a few, but these are the two main ones. And it is believing the thought. You know how I was talking about those thoughts that come into our head and we're like, hang on a second, where did that come from? So often we can believe that the thought is true. And I'm not even talking about like, you know, from being like, oh, okay, I feel like it's true, like noticing the thought and then kind of believing it's true in that sense. I'm also talking about what we feel is a possibility for us, right? If we have thoughts of, you know, limitations, we can just assume like, well, that's just reality. Like, of course that's true. Like, and we probably don't even realize that we are believing those thoughts, right? That we're believing those beliefs because we probably don't believe them to be thoughts or beliefs. We just think that that's truth, right? And there's always an equal and opposite to everything, right? If you want to find an example of anything in the world, you will, right? Of people who believe X or, you know, it's black or it's white, right? And so when we get these kind of like, I want to call them like intrusive thoughts of like, oh, you can't do that, or you haven't earned that, or you're not worthy of that, or like, that's not for you. Like when we believe those thoughts, we allow that to block us from this prosperity. And of course, we allow it to block us from pleasure because it certainly doesn't feel pleasurable to think those kind of thoughts, those limiting thoughts, right? And so put them together, avoiding the feeling and believing the thoughts. That's what's going to stop you. So what we're going to do is look at how we can feel the feeling and change the thought. And the piece here on like believing the thought, it's like, it's so interesting because I often have conversations with clients and other people, and it's like, well, I can't just make up this new thought and start to believe that to be true, like, because I'm just making it up. And it's kind of like, well, what's the difference between making up a thought, like crafting a thought that's helpful for you, that's going to actually lead to you feeling more confident or more motivated or more like excited to create what you want to create? You know, why is that less true than like this random intrusive thought that just came in unconsciously, right? We seem to value the random unconscious thoughts that have just kind of like breezed into our brain that our brain is offering us. We kind of believe those to be of more value and of more truth than the ones that we actually craft for ourselves. And it's absolutely not the case. So they're two little pieces to take away with you. Maybe you want to, during this experience, tune in with some of the thoughts that you are thinking, some of the things that you are believing to be true, and just getting curious about like, is that true? And like, maybe it could be different for me. Like, I'm not worthy. Hang on a second. What if I was? You know, get curious. I invite you to get curious this whole way. And we can't feel the feeling if we don't feel the feeling. So what I mean by that is like starting to like move down from like your neck, right? Because we do so much from the neck up. We're very like masculine driven, like we're probably doing all the things, we're managing all the things, all the schedules, all the people, all the, you know, right? What I'm going to invite you to do is come down below the neck. And that means to like feel what you're feeling. That doesn't mean that you have to put yourself in a position that feels so uncomfortable it doesn't feel safe. I'm just inviting you to notice like what happens in your body. What are some of the things that you notice in your body? What are some of those somatic sensations that you can feel? Oh, I have someone joining me. One sec. Let me get my bed. Come here, bud. Hey, Darren, you awake? I'll sit with you for a minute. In a minute, we're just about finished. This is baby girl. Do you want to say hello or not really? Yeah, in a minute. I can't give you boo-boo in this top. So there's two pieces we're going to explore. Now, I've talked about the first day, which is Monday. On Tuesday, get excited. You're probably going to be like, this is not what I signed up for. But what we're going to be diving into is failing with pleasure, like failing with pleasure, right? If you can learn how to fail with pleasure, you're absolutely unstoppable. Like like, think about it. If you can fail with pleasure and you can get up and dust yourself off and go again, maybe even get excited to go again, you shorten the time, you get back to it, you've learned some things, you take it on as information. Like, genuinely, if you can fail with pleasure, there is nothing to stop you. Like, you are, like, your success is inevitable. Your prosperity is inevitable. And doing it with pleasure, like, if you can fail with pleasure, you can experience pleasure in anything. And this is a part of my work too. Like, if you can begin to open to pleasure and feel worthy of pleasure, you will feel worthy of anything. Worthy of anything that you want to create, have, be, experience. So that's day one, kind of looking at some of the pieces of like practically creating the prosperity. And like, thank you, Renee, for that question about like, how do you stay patient with the things you're going to do and not rush yourself? And look, I can be so impatient and I don't make that wrong. You know, that's okay. And in fact, I actually really like the idea that, like, I believe being impatient for the thing to arrive means that you believe it is possible. If you weren't impatient, it means there's a part of you that doesn't think it's possible. The reason you are feeling impatient is because it's like there's a part of you, that future self, that like knows that it's possible, and you're like, come on, like, I'm ready, let's do this. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on impatience and not rushing ourselves. Yeah, give me a sec. So yeah, Monday is looking at the kind of, there's worthiness pieces in there, there's structuring pieces, there is protecting our time and honoring ourselves and what we desire. And day 2 is failing with pleasure. So fun. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. And I've got a couple of comments. Mary, you said, oh, yep, I'm a queen of making up stories in my head. It's almost my superpower. It's fabulous. Let's get delusional and do it for good, right? Mary, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys all on Monday. Do you want to say goodbye? Nope. See you. Bye. Look, there's a little one there. There's Mary's daughter.
Look.
Hi.
Do you want to say hi to this little girl? Say hello. Oh, she just woke up. We love this time of the day. We're starting to lead into that time of the day that, I don't know, nothing tends to go right.
We'll anyway, fail with pleasure all afternoon.
That's right. That's what we'll do.
Goodbye,
anyway, see you guys. Bye.
Yeah.